Well. What do we have with us today? What do we have with us today is a round of balance tuning. Because we have 3 buffs, we have 3 nerfs, and then we have 1 decent quality of life change. So we are now, 3 days, 4 days before the release of Mythic, and the last 3 bosses of Heroic, and then the full release of the season of Mythic Plus and PvP and whatnot. So it's gonna be interesting actually to see if this is the last of the tuning we are getting, or if there is gonna be a few more squeezed in these next few days. Generally speaking, Blizzard MO is to balance tune and change before Mythic opens, and then once Mythic is open, they're gonna let the world first guilds battle it out with no changes, and then after they have killed the last boss, after those 4 or 5 guilds have gotten to clear the raid, they're gonna go with another round of tuning, but only after. So it's gonna be interesting to see if before Tuesday or Wednesday we are gonna be getting any more of this tuning. But for now, we can focus on what Blizzard is planning to change. First in line, we are going with the neutral change. It's not that big. It's a quality of life change for Beast Mastery Hunter. So the 4-piece set bonus of Beast Mastery is the one that makes your kill command empower your Cobra Shot. 40% more damage, 40% increased with a reduction of kill command. Now it has an addition. It's gonna make multi-shot grant an additional 6 seconds of Beast Cleave. So the quality of life here is that you're gonna have to press multi-shot fewer times in AoE, because Beast Cleave only lasts for 4 seconds. So in AoE, you have to click multi-shot every 4 seconds if you want to keep Beast Cleave active. So with this change, you will be able to make a 10-second long Beast Cleave. So you will be saving a GCD for multi-shot, and you will be able to use GCD for more important abilities. Barb Shot, Kill Command, Cobra Shot. So it's gonna save you more time in AoE. In a single target, this is irrelevant. Now we have to start, however, going into the actual meaty changes of this round of tuning. Let's just start with a buff. Okay, I'm feeling generous. Let's start with Affliction Warlock. This is one of the specs that is getting buffed. This buff is also something that is not really available right now for the majority of the players, because it's a buff to the tier set. So unless you have a 2-piece right now and you're being pretty lucky, this is something that is going to be more widely available in a few weeks. Malefic Rapture's damage is now increased by 25% instead of 15%, and then the set bonus that makes your Shadow Bolt and your Drain Soul have a 20 and 10% chance to make your next Malefic Rapture cost no soul shards and be instant went from 20% to 30% chance to your Shadow Bolt, and from 10% chance to 20% chance with your Drain Soul. So you will essentially get more value out of your Malefic Rapture again, being able to cast it more often because it resets more thanks to your Shadow Bolt or Drain Soul, and doing now more damage. It is still not back to the original Malefic Rapture before the 3 nerfs in a row it got, but it's a good start. It is still a problem that Affliction has, particularly in single target, which is not getting too fixed by this. It's certainly better in AoE, in burst AoE, which is also what Affliction's niche already was in the first place. Now you can see by the difference here in the older Affliction and then the newer Affliction that this is a 5 to 6% damage increase change for Affliction Warlock. Another spec, however, has not gotten buffed, has gotten nerfed instead, because this spec is Fury Warrior. So the change to Fury Warrior is that the damage increase, the just flat out damage increase to your Raging Blow, has gone from 15% to 10%, and that the extension, the Recklessness extension, was 4 seconds before, and now it's gone down to 3 seconds. Now, this nerf alone it's a decent nerf. Okay, it's a significant nerf already. It's a 7% nerf on its own to all warriors, to all Fury Warriors, regardless of your Covenant choice. But the bigger problem is this new rising possibility once we had the double legendary and the tier sets available, which was the Necrolord Fury Warrior. This is because the Necrolord banner, together with Glory, which is the Necrolord legendary for warrior, was very, very powerful. It's synergized, it's scaled a lot with a ton of buffs you could get. It was a very powerful feedback loop within the same spec. because you have things like Hack and Slash, a very powerful conduit for this build that gives you a chance to reset your Raging Blow, and then all the other things together. You had the Raging Blow with a chance to proc Recklessness, you had the Recklessness increasing your Regeneration, Rampage extending the banner duration, and refreshing Raging Blow. This was in a feedback loop which gave you near 90% uptime to Recklessness and 90% uptime to your banner. You know, when you have these two things together, these two buffs together, you ended up having a 2.3, 2.4 cooldown essentially to your Rampage. You ended up having things like 400 Mastery, 22% more strength, 15% more flat damage done, double the regeneration, 30% movement speed, and if you're playing with Deathmaker Legendary, even a near guaranteed Siegebreaker effect on the target because of how many times you could cast Rampage so quickly. So all of this together prompted a nerf from Blizzard to the Necrolord Covenant Legendary to Glory. Now, the rage needed to extend the duration of Glory has been nerfed by 50%. Instead of needing 20 rage for the extension, you now need 30 rage for the extension. This effectively breaks the perma banner build of Necrolord. This nerfs the damage by even more than 15%. If you add the tier set nerf together with this nerf, for Necrolord it's well over a 20% damage nerf to the build. Effectively, this is basically killing the Necrolord version of Fury. The other versions are not dead, okay? This is not a giga nerf to Fury Warrior, it's not gonna get super weak all of a sudden, but it is still a decent nerf. I would say a needed nerf. We looked yesterday at the changes, the first few days of the release of the patch for Heroic Raiding. We saw Fury Warrior doing very well and being very popular. We saw Mythic Plus, Fury Warrior being the most popular melee DPS spec, so Fury was doing perhaps a little bit too much at this time, and this is still without two legendaries. This is still without tier sets. So Fury was doing very well, apparently too well according to Blizzard, so they got nerfed right now. Now we go to a twin change, a buff and a nerf within the same class. This is Druid, because Balanced Druid is getting nerfed and Feral Druid is getting buffed. As far as Balanced Druid is yet another tier set change. The entering of the lunar eclipse, creating the Fury of a Loon at reduced effectiveness. Previously it was 25% effectiveness, now it's 20% effectiveness. And the other change, the more important one, is that while you are in eclipse, the cost of Star Surge and Starfall is reduced by 20%. Now it's 15%. This is a slightly annoying change, mostly because now you can no longer do the quadruple Star Surge cast. You're back to doing only a triple Star Surge cast like you are doing right now. So unless you go for a specific legendary, Time-Worn Dreambinder, you would have to go back to what you're doing right now, basically 3 Star Surge casts whenever you enter Eclipse. This nerf is about a 5-ish% damage nerf to Balanced Druid, so even though you don't have this set yet, just know that when you have the tier set, you could have been 5% stronger, but you got nerfed. The other change is the buff, however, to Feral Druid. Yet another change to the tier sets, because the Feral Druid tier set was the one that got mega nerfed a while ago in the AoE effectiveness of the 4-piece. So the 4-piece now is getting 25% stronger. It's still not to the same level of what it was before. It's still actually significantly weaker, but at the very least it's a little bit better than what it was before. The more important change, however, is the 2-piece buff, because now Berserk's cooldown is reduced by 0.7 seconds per combo point spent instead of 0.5 seconds. You know, this can put roughly your Berserk, your Incarnation, as a Feral Druid on a 90 to 100-ish second cooldown, which is a significant discount to your original 180 second cooldown of your Berserk, or your Incarnation. So it is also a decent buff to Feral Druid. It's not changing too much. You know, the 4-piece about the AoE, the 25% buff, is not really gonna change too much, mostly because it was so much better before. Even with this buff, it's still weaker than what the original version of this 4-piece was. At the very least, be happy that you're getting buffed, right? At the very least, Feral got some attention, unlike some other specs that have not really been touched yet. Now, we are left with 1 nerf and 1 buff for this round of tuning. One of the buffs is going to Unholy Death Knight. So what Unholy is getting is a flat out 5% more damage to your minions, to your pets. Before it was 5% damage increase, now it's 10% damage increase. And when the second effect, the execute effect of Soul Reaper procs, instead of this bonus increasing to 25% more minion damage, it increases to 50% more minion damage. This evens out to be an overall 6% damage increase to Unholy. Unholy is not doing particularly well at the start of this tier, so perhaps this is going to help them become a little bit more relevant. I don't think so, but yeah, at least it's a buff, okay? At least you didn't get the treatment that the next spec apparently has gotten, because the bigger nerf of the day is going to Elemental Shaman. So, this is the nerf. Storm Elemental's Wind Gust effect gained from casting Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning now has a maximum of 10 stacks instead of 20. Additionally, if you cast Storm Elemental again while having a Storm Elemental already active, the Wind Gust buff will be reset. The Wind Gust is the one that gives you 3% faster cast time to your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, so you can get to 20 stacks, 60% cast reduction to those abilities. It brings you as low as a 0.6% cast time of those abilities. You know, this machine gun, this turret version of Elemental, which was also popular by the end of 8.3 by basically Nyalota. Back then, this one was even a more degenerate version because your Elemental was lasting basically forever, so you had to continuously use this turret version of this build. Now, what is even weirder is the explanation that Blizzard is giving. The ability to maintain Storm Elemental at long duration and high uptime allows for extended periods of Lightning Bolt casts, with a cast time of less than 0.6 seconds. Players have reported that this is uncomfortable to play, and we believe it might pose a significant accessibility concern. For that reason, we would rather entirely avoid having a cast talent that allows cast times which are this short. Okay, so the explanation is, it's a degenerate gameplay. Clicking one button every 0.6 seconds in a 7-minute fight, you are going to get carpal tunnel, so we don't want that for you. Okay, there is a problem, however. This build wasn't very strong. It wasn't very strong in single target. It was going to make Elemental middle of the pack decent, and in Mythic Plus, it was strong, but it was only for the focused period of AoE within Mythic Plus packs. So there was no need to nerf it. So the moment you decide to nerf it because of accessibility reasons, what you expect is a compensation buff in return. For example, okay, we're gonna make your Lightning Bolt and your Chain Lightning not cast that fast, but in return, we're going to buff their damage. So you're gonna cast less of them, but they will be doing more damage. That would be a decent counter to that. Instead, at the moment, it's just a flat-out nerf. This is actually evening out to be a 14% single target damage nerf to Elemental, and that was already the weakest point of Elemental, their single target. Yes, they had a very promising and powerful double legendary combination that was going to make them strong, but that was still from a starting base that was quite low. We're not talking about a subtlety rogue, which is already at the top, getting a top double legendary combo. We were talking about Elemental Shaman, which was middle of the pack, even actually bottom of the pack in single target, getting a pretty good double legendary combo. So it wasn't going to be very oppressive as, you know, in the meta of the game. So it's a really confusing change for Elemental, this type of nerf. I hope it doesn't go through, at the very least, it doesn't go through without compensation, without giving them something else, because I can agree with the accessibility, the annoyance of this button mashing rotation if you wanted to go for that Storm Elemental build, but even if you want to remove that, you need to give something in return, some type of compensation in return. Otherwise, it's just a severe nerf to a spec that doesn't really warrant being nerfed to this degree, or being nerfed at all, really. Why would you want to nerf Elemental, honestly? So with this sad moment for Shaman being over with, these were all the changes for today. We have gotten the nice, decent QOL for Beast Mastery, the okay buff, which likely will not really move too much for Affliction Warlock. Same discussion really for Feral Druid, at the very least a little bit better in single target, which was already their strong point for Feral Druid, and a quite annoying nerf to Balanced Druid, particular for the rotation, for the combo they could have gotten before and now it's getting taken away from them. And then the good buff to Unholy Death Knight and the horrible nerf to Elemental Shaman. I am particularly positive towards the buffs because, you know, Affliction, Unholy, Feral Druids are the ones being buffed. They were not OP, they were not meta, they were not too oppressive, they needed some buffs. I'm sure some other people will come up and say, what about the buffs to Red Paladin? What about the buffs to Shadow Priest? Okay, maybe they're missing someone. Maybe, as we said, there is a few days left to the release of the Mythic version of the raid and the full release of Season 3. So perhaps just by waiting, we will get a few more rounds of balance tuning. For now, I'm pretty okay with the buffs, actually. The nerfs, I'm okay with the Necrolord nerf to Fury Warrior, although it's likely a little bit too heavy-handed. Same goes for Balanced Druid, even though Balanced Druids right now are not doing too hot in the raid as we saw yesterday. And the Elemental Shaman one, I was okay with the nerf if it came with anything in return. A nerf on its own like that, it's way too much for that poor spec. So this is what we had for today, for this Saturday of tuning. Of course, as usual, thank you guys for watching the video. You can let me know, of course, which of the specs do you think should be buffed right before the raid releases in Mythic, or which of the ones need a nerf before the raid releases. You don't want them to be that OP in the raid, and or at the very least you think they should be nerfed because they are OP. Same goes for Mythic Plus. Maybe you have some specs you are bored to see being played all the time and you want to have nerfed, although we all know it won't happen. You can, of course, support the channel by liking the video as well as commenting down below, and of course subscribing to the channel. But this time around, of course, as a condolences for the nerfed specs, only Balanced Druids, Elemental Shamans and Fury Warriors can subscribe to the channel. And also, of course, follow me on Twitter over here. And then if you want to support me even more, you can subscribe up to my Patreon, which will also going to let you have access to my Discord channel right over, what the fuck, here. Okay, see you guys soon, and in the meantime, why do I feel weird waking up in the morning? It should be a normal thing. 10 AM wasn't even considered to be early. Why does it feel wrong?